Howdy y'all, welcome back to Rat's Nest Hot Rods. We're going to work on the front fenders of my 1965 Cadillac today in this video. Right now we're removing trim. Going to do some more sandblasting, grinding, welding. Not going to get to body filling in this one, but we had some odd dents, and then I found one fender that was really badly damaged and you couldn't see it from looking at it from the outside of the vehicle. As I'm sure you've run into before, it had about 3/4 of an inch of Bondo in that bottom lower portion of the fender. So luckily I have a parts car out in the driveway, a 1965 Cadillac Fleetwood that has the same exact fenders. I went out there and stole that one. You'll see it later. It kind of pops in here, and it's a white fender as opposed to these stripped down blue fenders. And it just paid for itself. I picked that car up running driving for $1,000, and these fenders are hard to come by. So why don't we speed this up, and then I'll cut back in here in a little bit and I'll show you some Bondo nightmare.
I've been walking all night, hoping that I'd find you. I've been walking all night, hoping that I'd find you.
Alright, what you're about to see is this one fender was done correctly. They welded the old trim holes. There was trim all over this car back in the day, and looks like the prior owner of this car felt the same way, but this one, as you can see, we've got some earthworms coming in. I'm pointing to where they shaved the antenna hole up there, where it's all rusted out on the inside, and I don't fault anybody for doing it that way. Obviously they left the fender on the car and welded that from the outside. Really tough to rust proof on the inside, but we're going to do it the right way. If you see, we're going to knock these earthworms off here. That's Bondo that pushed through the old trim holes, different than we saw on the other fender where they had welded them real nice. So I'm starting to think that we may have a problem here. And if you look, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a whole bunch of beaten in areas underneath those holes I'm punching out right quick. And that thing looked like it had been kicked by a horse, and then somebody took the time to put it back in place with a ball peen hammer. Definitely pretty rudimentary work, but like I said, I don't blame anybody for doing it their way when they're trying to get a car on the road or sell it, you know. But this is my car, and we're going to do a nice job. Time for some blast vision, boys or girls. Boys and girls, boys or girls. Once I get this thing working correctly, we're going to start blowing some paint off this sucker. Let's speed her up so you don't have to listen to me anymore, and we'll put on some good music from the Whiskey Club.
'Cause without you, darling, I don't know what to do. Walking, walking all night. I was born in the backwoods, forest is my home. I was born in the backwoods, forest is
time for some dent pulling and filling. I'll speed this up here in a second, but putting a few studs in here to attempt to pull some really hard to get to dents. I did the best I could with it, really pulled hard on it, and then came back in with a welder and kind of tightened those dents up so I can get some metal in there rather than putting a bunch of filler down in there. Without further ado, let's speed this up and we'll fly through this. I'll be using a grinder, welder, the stud puller, and a square to check it for how close we are to getting it to a stock location. Okay, with that completed, we're going to go back and start filling all these little trim holes. The Fleetwood had more trim than the Coupe de Ville fender, so this is actually, I'm grinding where the word Fleetwood was in individual letters and a hole for each one. So we need to go through here and fill all these holes real quick. Pretty boring stuff. I used a copper spoon on the back side and then a little spring-loaded copper welding tool that helped out a lot as well during the process. So let's rock and roll, and I'll talk to you later.
What's the new emptiness? What's the new waves of grain? What's the new bathroom stall? The new high octane? Just another mega voice in another X-ray song. Another frozen door, another what went wrong. New angel code, the new insect code, the new mixtape code, the new forever zone. Bring on the pixel blue, bring on the logo gold, bring on the culture sex, bring on that where they cannot be one nowhere. Come on. It's a hunger dance, it's a price tag mouse, it's a deadpan laugh, it's a fantastic cool. Now the homeland peel, now the super fresh, now the white window sill. Rock the mountain hill, rock the devil test.
Alright, y'all, this is the part where I say thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Gonna do a little final grinding here after all that welding. As you can see, there was a lot of trim on this thing, and it had a whole lot of holes to fill. Keep your eye out for more videos in the future. I mean, look over here at my VHS tapes. The next one is going to be polyprimer, primer, and body filler. Peace and grease, sucker.